is thwarted in his efforts and falls into conscious sin, and so, being overcome of sin, becomes its slave. For of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. And thus the effect produced by the knowledge of the commandment is this, that sin worketh in man all manner of concupiscence, and he is involved in the additional guilt of wilful transgression, and that is fulfilled which is written, the law entered that the offense might abound. This is man's second state. But if God has regard to him, and inspires him with faith in God's help, and the Spirit of God begins to work in him, then the mightier power of love strives against the power of the flesh, and although there is still in the man's own nature a power that fights against him, for his disease is not completely cured, yet he lives the life of the just by faith, and lives in righteousness so far as he does not yield to evil lust, but conquers it by the love of holiness. This is the third state of a man of good hope, and he who by steadfast piety advances in this course shall attain at last to peace, that peace which, after this life is over, shall be perfected in the repose of the spirit, and finally in the resurrection of the body. Of these four different stages, the first is before the law, the second is under the law, the third is under grace, and the fourth is in full and perfect peace. Thus too has the history of God's people been ordered according to his pleasure, who disposeth all things in number, and measure, and weight. For the church existed at first before the law, then under the law which was given by Moses, then under grace which was first made manifest in the coming of the mediator. Not indeed that this grace was absent previously, but in harmony with the arrangements of the time it was veiled and hidden. For none, even of the just men of old, could find salvation apart from the faith of Christ, nor, unless he had been known to them, could their ministry have been used to convey prophecies concerning him to us, some more plain, and some more obscure. Chapter 119. Now in whichever of these four stages, as we may call them, the grace of regeneration finds any particular man, all his past sins are there and then pardoned, and the guilt which he contracted in his birth is removed in his new birth. And so true is it that the wind bloweth where it listeth, that some have never known the second stage, that of slavery under the law, but have received the divine assistance as soon as they received the commandment. Chapter 120. But before a man can receive the commandment, it is necessary that he should live according to the flesh. But if once he has received the grace of regeneration, death shall not injure him, even if he should forthwith depart from this life. For to this end Christ both died, and rose, and revived, that he might be Lord both of the dead and the living. Nor shall death retain dominion over him for whom Christ freely died. Chapter 121. All the commandments of God, then, are embraced in love, of which the Apostle says, Now the end of the commandment is charity, out of a pure heart, and of a good conscience, and of faith unfeigned. Thus the end of every commandment is charity, that is, every commandment has love for its aim. But whatever is done, either through fear of punishment, or from some other carnal motive, and has not for its principle that love which the Spirit of God sheds abroad in the heart, is not done as it ought to be done, however it may appear to men. For this love embraces both the love of God and the love of our neighbor, and on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, we may add the gospel and the apostles. For it is from these that we hear this voice, The end of the commandment is charity, and God is love. Wherefore all God's commandments, one of which is, Thou shalt not commit adultery, and all those precepts which are not commandments, but special counsels, one of which is, It is good for a man not to touch a woman, are rightly carried out only when the motive principle of action is the love of God, and the love of our neighbor in God. And this applies both to the present and the future life. We love God now by faith, then we shall love him through sight. Now we love even our neighbor by faith, for we who are ourselves mortal know not the hearts of mortal men. But in the future life the Lord both will bring to light the hidden things of darkness, and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts, and then shall every man have praise of God. For every man shall love and praise in his neighbor the virtue which, that it may not be hid, the Lord himself shall bring to light. Moreover, lust diminishes as love grows, till the latter grows to such a height that it can grow no higher here. For greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Who then can tell how great love shall be in the future world, when there shall be no lust for it to restrain and conquer? For that will be the perfection of health, when there shall be no struggle with death. Chapter 122. But now there must be an end at last to this volume, and it is for yourself to judge whether you should call it a handbook, or should use it as such. I, however, thinking that your zeal in Christ ought not to be despised, and believing and hoping all good of you in dependence on our Redeemer's help, and loving you very much as one of the members of his body, have, to the best of my ability, written this book for you on faith, hope, and love. May its value be equal to its length. End of the Enchiridion by St. Augustine. Recording by Darren L. Slider, Fort Worth, Texas, on April 16, 2007.